Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is place a stencil on his arm. The easiest way to do with an arm is have him sort of in a military position, completely straight down. You're going to want to take alcohol, diluted, wipe off the area. And then, as I've said in the other ones, I use Dettol, which is a first aid antiseptic you can pretty much get at any tattoo magazine or any tattoo store. It's just a little bit cleaner way. I've seen several different approaches to it. Just the biggest one I can say is don't use underarm deodorant. It's the easiest way to cross-contaminate. So I got Dettol in a normal ink container. I'll take it and just put a small film throughout his arm. You don't want to saturate him, but you want it enough to where it's going to cover everything. And this tattoo that we're putting on him is a pretty complex tattoo, so. And obviously this is after you've shaved his arm and have it cleared off. Now this is the tattoo that we're doing today. As you can see, it's going to be a pretty complex tattoo going down his arm. So I'm going to take my stencil, which is already pre-designed, which at this point we should have already covered, and I'm going to use his center line here, sort of anatomical, and go straight down to get this perfectly lined up. I'll start with the top, and if you get the top straight, everything else will kind of fall into place. Got that there. And this is the part you just start folding over. And then from this point, I would never completely 100% trust that you got enough Dettol on it to cover the entire tattoo. To compensate for that, I'm going to take a moist cloth and just kind of hit all the corners and pan it out. And do this over the whole tattoo. Again, the great thing about having a stencil is it will give you an idea of what it's going to look like, and if it is crooked, don't be too biased to take it off and start again. If you use stencil paper, the only way you're going to properly do that is with alcohol. So after I've patted the area down, just kind of let it dry on there, I'll go ahead and I'll leave a corner unflapped and just check it. And to me, it looks exactly how I want it, so I'll go ahead and take it off. And at this point, I'm going to let the client observe that in the mirror, make sure that's 100% where he wants it. Always remember that put the responsibility on your client and not you, as far as making sure it is straight, making sure it's exactly where they want it. And not to say if you notice it's not there and they don't, you go ahead and do the tattoo. Just make sure that they're just as much happy with it as you are. So what I'll do is I'll let him look at it, take about 5 minutes to let it dry on the skin, and from this point on I'll go ahead and start preparing my equipment. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm go ahead and set up my equipment. It's all been sterilized as far as your tubes go, which again, hopefully by this point you've went over all the different sterilization techniques. Just a reminder, in your sterilizer you want to put your tubes in there after they've been ultrasonic and cleaned for 20 minutes steamed and 20 minutes low pressure, which low pressure means with heat off, but your container still interlocked. This is a travel tattoo, so I'm going to use 3 different styles tattoos, or needles. I'm using a 5-round liner, which is pre-packaged. It has the encoder here stating that it has been pre-sterilized from the company. I'm using a 7 mag shader. Again, pre-packaged. It has that it's been pre-sterilized, and I'm going to use a 9-round. Again, this is a mag shader, this is a round shader. All of them pre-sterilized. Obviously, we're going to go ahead and start up with the outline. So just as a rehearsal, take out the pack, just always be 100% observant that this part of your needle is never affected or touched. How to do that properly is I'll get the proper tube. Go ahead and take the eye, place it down inside. And this is kind of a delicate process because you don't want the slightest imperfection can mess up an outline. So you want to make sure you don't bang against the corners. And then I'll place it, and with a typical needle setup, unless you make your own, which that is usually more work than necessary, your eye loop will be facing to the left of the machine. And get that pushed on there firmly. Get everything placed into place. Remember, you want it to come out about the length of a piece of paper when it's not in motion. Tighten it down. Adjust. And what you want it is when this thing is fully at its full motion, it'll come out the length of a nickel. On a tattoo machine in full operation, it'll take typically about 20 motions per second of up and down. That's a fine-tuned machine, a properly working one. So I'll check it. You can kind of hear how it's not too fast, but yet not too slow. If I need to, I'll make a slight adjustment. On your typical power supply, you're going to have a DC power supply, and you have your current, your voltage. Your voltage, you want it usually to run around 8.00. Your DC at full, you're going to want it to run about a 0.30, somewhere in that range. It just depends what type of manufacturer as far as operating speed, but 95% of it's done by your ear. Once you have it to where you like the sound, take your tattoo machine and set the needle away from you. You never want it facing inward for multiple reasons. Number one, that's more of a chance for it to get affected with hitting it, and plus keeping it away from you and keeping it towards your ink bottles will keep it sanitation. Okay, I'm ready. Done with that. Now what I'm doing now is, obviously for copyright reasons, I can't show you the manufacturer of the particular one I have, but I got petroleum jelly. It can be bought anywhere, any dollar store, anywhere. I'm going to put it on a dental bib. A dental bib is your best protection barrier on top of your tattooing placement. However you got it set up, it really doesn't matter right now.